all of them, to a man and woman, stood up and said, no, we will not support this amended motion.
Wow, what's so bad about it?
Hi everyone, and welcome yet again to another episode of Singapore Confidential. I'm your host, Marcus Lim, and with me also,
Benjamin Chang.
Yay! Hi Ben. So first things first, we are in today recording in maybe the absolute heart of Singapore's government.
And I have to speak like this because it's the heart of British government, actually.
Oh, it was colonial government, yes.
Colonial, we've got Kavanaugh Bridge right over there.
Oh dear, old Kavanaugh, jolly good man.
And we've got a Victoria Concert Hall, which was once upon a time Singapore's first town hall.
Really?
Oh yes. And who can forget, of course, Old Parliament House.
Oh, in my time we called it Parliament House.
And it was fun fact. It was actually built as a place of residence for one Scottish merchant, John Argyle Maxwell. And all three names have been used in to represent some road or building in Singapore. We've got Maxwell, we've got Argyle, we've got John.
And let me ask you one thing. Did old Maxwell ever get to use his house?
No.
Why not?
No, that's because the British government decided your house is too fancy. It's going to be a place for the government forever.
Damn sure. It's all about location. It's right on the river. It's a lovely location. We're going to have it.
Okay, Singlish, please.
Now, see, the problem is that, you see, he built so nice in such a nice area. If he had built it in Punggol, like Matilda houses now, it would have stayed with him.
Yeah,
okay,
see.
fella, try boleh, nice, built a nice house here in the middle of the city.
No, his house can I use as parliament, Parliament until today. Talking about parliament.
Talking about Parliament. Well, we are, yesterday we had this pretty massive marathon 9-hour debate on a motion that the WP MPs brought in on the future economy. Now, what happened in that 9-hour discussion?
Can fly to Italy already, no?
Really?
Yeah.
No, I can fly to Dubai.
Okay.
So the WP MPs moved a motion in Parliament, but something happened during those 9 hours. The PAP MPs then filed amendments to the motion, but these amendments must have been so egregious to the WP MPs that all of them, to a man and woman, stood up and said, no, we will not support this amended motion.
Wow, what's so bad about it?
Yes, so they changed a few words. Okay, they changed the words notwithstanding to in line with, and they changed the words, they added words to include global corporations.
Like that also cannot.
It's clear that for the WP MPs, okay, if this motion was in line with the Economic Strategy Review, they would not accept it. And if it included references to global companies, they would also not accept it. And therefore, they didn't accept it.
Wow, this sounds like a corporate meeting room, like if you change this one word, everything cannot move.
Hey, I mean, the one thing I've learned, from a few desperate years in the corporate world is he who controls the filing of the minutes controls destiny eternal.
He does indeed. All of us have watched through Parliament. And
Yes, there was a waste of, no, not waste of, but it was a very, very long Parliament session, yes.
To me, it felt a bit scary. There's a lot of horror going on about how the future is so bleak and people have no jobs and we got to start protecting people.
Yes. AI is
from
going to
job
eat all
loss
our
now.
lunches, literally eat our lunches. They'll come, like AI robots will come and open up our Tupperware and eat our lunches. What stood out for me, I guess, is the fact that a lot of the decisions and ideas, actually, there wasn't that much difference in many of these ideas. I think if you look at, say, a lot of the PAP MPs, I think Low Yan Ling also came and said, actually, there's not that much difference. So maybe you can also support this amended motion. I mean, things like, for example, I think Kenneth Tiong talked about creating like an area within NTU that had like rental subsidies and whatnot to help startups, start up and scale up. But I mean, it's stuff that I kind of already have, like with Block 71 in Ayer Rajah.
I'm very familiar with that.
Which has a lot of tech companies starting up there, and they get pretty preferential rates for that at that area. Yes. But more importantly, they get the kind of incubator, collaborating kind of ecosystem that you get. You have things like Pixel, which is also in the one-off area, which is for content creators. They have, actually, we should use that one of these days because apparently they have a lot of sort of sets that they've built for content creators to come and film in. So we have that. We have things like, I mean, if you're in the arts community, you have things like Aliwal Art Centre, Goodman Art Centre. I think recently they talked about how the rents were going up, but even then, the rent for, say, a 700 square foot studio in Aliwal's Art Centre is about like less than 2,000 a month. That's about 1,000, I think between 1,002 and 1,007. Whereas, like, actual commercial rents in that area, you're talking about 8 grand, 9 grand kind of thing, So we do have these subsidized spaces. So for me, my thought was, we already have these things.
And to add, it's not just subsidized places. There are a lot of grants around. I myself am a beneficiary of the Startup SG Founders Grant. It's not small. You can go Google the figures. It's about 50 grand. No, without and
no strings.
It's, no strings. So they don't take a percentage of your earnings, and I can't remember the word for that.
Equity. They don't take equity.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
You give me a startup, you don't know equity, you don't know Series A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Wow.
Series Q. Yeah. That's not the only fund. There are 2 or 3 others. There's if you're in deep tech, there's another fund for that.
Yeah.
Plenty of research grants. In fact, there's a whole website for you to search through all the grants and funds that are available to you.
Yeah.
And I'd say the only thing that's stopping you is just go and get it done.
So I think it was fairly clear from the onset of this discussion that what the WP were trying to do is to sort of position the government as saying, oh, you guys are only for MNCs and we're going to be for the SMEs. So they drew quite a strong distinction between SMEs and MNCs. And I think if you take, a lot of them in their speeches are going to say, no, we're not against this or that, right? But if you look at the speeches as a whole, as a sort of general discussion topic, they're very clear that they didn't think that MNCs were the engine of growth for Singapore.
Which is very odd because that's a huge employer. And I say there's no need to draw a distinction. There's enough funding for both.
To be fair, that's also what the WP MP said. Why are we making this false choice between MNCs and SMEs? Which is true. I mean, if you take a look at it, right, for example, in Singapore, you talk about all your grants, right? Collectively, there's like $2 billion worth of grants and schemes for SMEs in Singapore. And a lot of these grants are not fully taken up, because quite frankly, you have a lot of SMEs who are trying their best to go day to day and work hard and, keep their business surviving. They don't have time to go and apply for these grants. Yeah. So I grant you that there are ways in which to make these processes more clear to a lot of these SMEs. But I don't think that entails a wholesale sort of destruction and rejigging of our economy. Makes no sense.
Yeah. So there are things are already there.
Yeah.
You just need to reach out and get it, or at least go Google it. It's right there.
Yeah.
What I got was a collective sense of fear, and I think a majority of that also comes from the economic restructuring motion that the Workers' Party filed, and a little bit of that also from the PAP MPs themselves, who are preparing for retrenchments. So there's this collective sense of fear, and it's not just in Parliament. I think on the ground here and there you do hear of people wondering what the future is like, what would their jobs be like, will I really be retrenched? I think this is a good time to tell you a little bit about my favorite artist.
Okay, who's your favorite artist?
Salvador Dali. We know what he's good at, right? Before he was known for surrealism, he practiced every little thing. He had cubism, he had realism, watercolors. He dealt in everything, but he never was married to any one sort of skill. And he was very ready to unlearn, discard the skill, and move on to the next thing. And I think that is one of the abilities that a person, an entrepreneur, really needs to have. To build, to see whether it works or not, and if it works, to throw it away or sell it off, and then move on to the next project. This is the attitude that we all ought to have. And Singapore has actually founded some really, really good companies. I think there's no need to be too emotional about it, but to structure and to look at what the next big thing is, to work on the next big thing.
I mean, no, the thing is, I think a lot of people here who are listening to us as well, we're hoping we'll get a much younger crowd, right? But I think a lot of people don't maybe remember things like the 97 financial crisis, the 98 financial crisis. Frankly, retrenchments are very scary things. Okay, I no doubt if you're being retrenched, it sucks. You got to go back into the work, into retraining or re-interviewing, all these things, and you're doing so sometimes, in the case of 97, in some of the toughest employment markets of all time, right? Retrenchments do affect lives, but I think we have to be very careful about fear-mongering sometimes, If you're chronically online, if you're only on Reddit, and if you're only on Instagram, only on these places, right? Of course, you're going to hear the worst of everything. It's the negativity bias of social media is beyond the pale. You're going to hear, oh my God, this company is toxic, or that company is toxic. Oh, I can't get a job because I went and applied for 100 different interviews. Oh, I had three traineeships before I graduated, and I come out and can't find work, right? If you look at the figures, we are still quite okay. Okay, we've had something like, I think it was about, I think there's a layoff tracker that shows how many retrenchments we had, right? It's nowhere near how bad it can be, like 97, where you had like 20, 30,000 a quarter getting retrenched, right? So my issue with this kind of fear-mongering is with this with this kind of fear-driven sort of legislation, is you have a duty as MPs, not just government MPs, as opposition MPs, right, to not succumb to your darker demons. To, in the words of, I think, Steven Pinker, right, to use the better angels of your soul, right? Are things very bad? Maybe for some people they are, but is our system doing decently? I think actually our system is doing more than decently. We're coming to it from a position of strength. So does it help your constituents to use grievance politics and say things are lousy, things are bad, things are shit, things are horrible, we need to change this whole system completely? Which, to be fair, if you're an opposition politician, that's what you do. You oppose, okay? It's like asking, why does a serpent sting? Why does a serpent bite or a scorpion sting? It is in their nature to do so. If you're an opposition MP, it is in your nature to oppose, right?
That's right. And to add to that, I think to say that Singapore has no retrenchment protection is stretching the truth.
Which was a big...
It is stretching the truth.
Yeah, which was a big part of their plank, I think if you take a look at what the WP was suggesting, a lot of these things are holdovers from their manifesto last year. Yeah. So they basically retooled what they said in the manifesto last year to fit this idea of a new economic plan. Yeah.
So there is retrenchment guidelines.
Yeah.
To say... Actually, let's go out and say there is retrenchment protection in Singapore.
Yeah.
Firstly, there is legislative protection.
Yeah.
Okay. Granted, the legislation does say that you must compensate the worker.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't prescribe you how much. It doesn't prescribe how long.
Yeah.
It doesn't prescribe how to do it.
Yeah.
But that's designed on purpose. The grey area is where lawyers and as well as the trade unions, which is right across the road,
is it?
That's where they make their keep. That's where the lawyers make their money, and that's where the unions will come in to help. You fill in the blanks by having a collective agreement and by having all these retrenchment certainties documented in your collective agreement, and your collective agreement is enforceable by the courts.
Yeah, but here's a question though. What happens if a company chow kwan and don't pay retrenchment benefits?
They can do that. And if you flip the news not too long ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago, some companies have tried doing that, and they're very, very quickly turned around to say, oh, I'm so sorry, I should have done it properly. Why are they so fearful? Because you don't just, like they say, happy, retrench everyone.
Yeah.
There is a process. You have to inform the government. You have to inform the trade unions. You cannot use retrenchment as the easiest way to save a company or to help a company. Yeah. You cannot discriminate certain workers. That the retrenchment is the last line of resort. You then inform the government. Government will help to place the workers. The unions will try and place out and try and negotiate terms that is favorable for both the workers and the employers.
Yeah.
So there's a process for it, and that's how we protect our workers. I know it's very chic to say, oh, let's have a law that easily, just enforce it and say that, oh, you must pay 12 months or 15 months or whatever for every year of service. But if you do that, if a company is unable to maneuver, it's not going to be good for the workers as well.
Yeah.
They're going to be fired anyway.
Yeah.
Or the company shuts, they lose their jobs. It's in nobody's favor if the company has to shut.
I guess one thing also is that what the WP prescribed, for example, for this would be retrenchment insurance, right? But which, frankly, is a tax on payroll ultimately, because it's 1% off your payroll.
on that, there's
Yeah.
actually Skills Future job seeker support.
Yeah,
and and there is funding for that. It's not called insurance per se, but it's an assistance if you meet the guidelines.
Yeah, and you're right, because insurance, this idea of retrenchment benefits is a key plank in the WP's discussion, because it was also probably the only big policy that Pritam Singh personally spoke on in the 9-hour discussion. Everything else was taken on by the other MPs. But I mean, again, it's not new. It's rehashed, like I said, from their GE manifesto. And I think, they're basically building on this worry that a lot of people have. Oh my God, there's so many retrenchments, right? There are not that many retrenchments. Trust. I mean, you take a look at numbers, right?
Yeah.
They're scary, but they're not near the kind of level that we were thinking of in 97. But even more importantly than that, you take a look at something like 9 out of 10 retrenchments have paid off benefits. You have a very high level of compliance already. Okay, the problem with instituting something like that into law, firstly, we've all heard the complaints, right? It can become a flaw.
Yeah.
You're also hitting companies sometimes at their worst possible moment. Right.
And I say this is where the genius of policy design comes in.
Yep.
And I think, say what you want about this government, they are really very good at creating policies that are flexible and attack multiple problems by incising very surgically into the targeted area.
Yeah.
All these sledgehammer things, minimum wage, retrenchment benefits, and so on and so forth, very sexy, very easy to implement, but they cause a lot of damage as well. I mean, if you want to, demolish a certain... Let's take a look at this old building. If you just want to change the door, you don't whack down the whole building, right?
Yeah.
You change that door.
Yeah.
Then that's what we're good at.
No, and also it tends to lead to a lot of friction and a lot of sort of slowing down of economic growth, because you're adding extra taxes, payroll taxes, for example. You're including things like, I think there have been some even more egregious claims that companies should put a certain amount of money in escrow, to pay for these benefits, right? Whatever you say, right? Companies are not just these monolithic things that have no soul, have no emotion. They're run by people. They're worked in by people. Okay, you talk about, you and I are both SME owners. Right? In fact, I think we would say micro-SME owners, right? Cash flow is one of the most important things.
Exactly.
You're telling me that even before I start anything, I've got to put, say, 50 grand in as escrow for retrenchment benefits.
Yeah.
You're basically saying you're probably going to fail even before you start. Who's
And by
got
the
the
way,
money for that?
90% of businesses fail.
Well, yes, but the thing is that if you make it easier for more business to start, then whoever gets fired from one business or retrenched from one business gets to go quickly to another job. The idea is that it's not to say that you will never ever be retrenched, but that you'll be able to get a new job as soon as possible. And the only way we do that is by making it as easy as possible to run businesses in Singapore.
Exactly. More businesses equals more jobs.
Yeah. So we talked about notwithstanding, right? So they were basically already having the economic strategy review in their sites already. So one thing I was kind of curious about is, it's very clear what the PAP MPs were doing. The PAP MPs were doing, saying, hey, hello, no, this economic strategic review, we talked to over 7,700 people. Okay, they were all things like, they're all people like business leaders, workers, unionists, SME owners, SME trade chambers. We had academics, we had venture capitalists. We went through the entire gamut of society and asked them. These guys are at the front line of economic change. What do you need? What can we give it to you? Right. So they're very clear to say this. This is they were telling the WP, if you say this ESR makes no sense to you, then what's your response? So my question would be, for the WP's proposals, right, how many people did they consult? Because that's also very interesting, because can you say that you are a national plan or you're just a WP plan? A lot of these came from, like we said, from their GE manifesto. How many people did they talk to discuss to come up with the manifesto? Who did they talk to? What did it come from a wide gamut of society, or was it just the WP members and the WP sort of well-wishers?
Or Reddit.
Yeah, because or Reddit, my God, because then it just becomes, there's a certain ideological bent. Is it truly a national plan? So those are some of the things I had issue with when I was listening to the discussion. Second thing is domestic demand.
Yes.
Remember, they were saying we're not going to vote for this amendment if you include the words instead of notwithstanding, when we say notwithstanding the ESR, means that in spite of, then we say, nah, I'm not interested in the ESR. So the WP MPs put there, no, we want to say in line with the economic strategic review, and also including SMEs and local business companies and global companies. So they also said no to global companies. So here's a question though. There was a lot of discussion from the WP side about how we should raise up domestic demand. I guess the implication is that we're not so reliant on global demand. What are your thoughts on that?
How much can Singaporeans buy? I mean, okay, everybody's talking about food. I mean, food is the clearest thing, on everybody's mind, because everybody says, everyone has to eat something.
Yeah.
Therefore, it will be great to get into the food business.
Yeah.
Every single person that you meet thinks the same thing. So what happens? It manifests. You walk down the streets, there's food. Every building you go to from basement 3 to level 6 is all food.
Yeah.
There's just not enough demand, and that's just food. What about retail? How much clothes can I wear? Okay, better not say how much clothes can I wear, because I know that probably some of you can wear a lot of clothes. But chairs, is there a very interesting chair brand that you can think of?
Okay,
how many chairs do I need?
So this goes back to the WP's idea that they're championing SMEs as well. Okay, so you take something like Secret Lab, which is a pretty successful local Singapore SME, right? I believe the owner of Secret Lab said, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, that they sell about 1 million chairs a year to over 60 countries. How many can we buy? I'm sorry, how many chairs? How many Secret Lab chairs can we buy? Under this plan to increase domestic demand, does that mean that we both have to buy two Secret Lab chairs a year, and continuously every other year after that we're going to buy 2 more chairs? It makes no sense. We build, even our SMEs, right? We are built for the world. We are not built for Singapore. 6 million people. How many? What's going on?
So I listen to a lot of startup pitches and all that, and I talk to businesses. Anytime somebody says that they're trying to sell to a local market, I say you have a very, very short runway and a very, very short shelf life.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to sell.
Yeah.
There's just not enough people to buy from you.
Yes.
You need to think global. From day one, your product needs to be global. It doesn't matter whether you're SaaS, tangible product, you're going to import something. Even if you're not thinking about retail, if you're thinking about food, Bread Talk never survived by selling to Singapore alone.
Bread Talk is in China.
It's
in all
everywhere.
the places.
Yes.
I mean, you think about something like Irvin's salted egg fish
very
skins.
nice, yeah.
Very nice. How many bags do you buy a year?
One.
One. I buy one. Maybe if I'm going overseas to meet some friends and want to buy them something from Singapore, I'll buy them another bag there.
Yeah.
That's not enough. We have to sell to the world. So, but here's my problem. That's where I think the WP have got it wrong. By insisting on domestic demand, okay, they've it's like they've let the tail wag the dog. They've let all your truly your sort of inward-looking commentators on Reddit, right, sort of pull them to this economic conception. We don't have, it's the clearest thing. We don't have enough space. How many? Let's talk about AI chips, right? We build quite a number of chips as well.
Yeah.
How many are you going to buy this year?
The 5090 is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that's about $6,000. I think I can buy 2 can already.
This year. What about next year? How many are you going to buy next year?
Probably 0.
We still need you to buy next year based on the WP plan, right? If we want more domestic demand, we're both going to have to spend a lot more money.
I know. Government can give grants, then I use the grants to buy more chips.
No, but you see this.
More GPUs.
But you see that's the problem. This WP plan, right, comes from this unnecessary nationalistic idea. Sort of like, we're getting, the world is dangerous now. We look inward. We crouch down and we hide our heads inward.
Yeah, we can't afford to do that. If we were a much larger country, I guess we possibly could.
We possibly could.
Not a country of 6 million.
No,
yeah.
But I mean, the thing is that you look at some things like, they say we should champion local businesses, right? We already are championing local businesses.
Yeah, but I'm a local business. I say champion me for sure. but there are only so many grants I can take. At the end of the day, I need to go out, sharpen my teeth, and get business from the market. I kill, therefore I can eat.
Yeah. And that brings us to our next point, right? I think there's a lot of discussion on entrepreneurship during this 9-hour discussion, right? I think here's a problem. You cannot government grant your way towards being an entrepreneur. which is what a lot of these proposals from the WP were, they're saying, oh, you've got to subsidize this, you've got to subsidize that, you've got to subsidize rent, you've got to subsidize you've got to basically give more money to the entrepreneurs. Okay, then they become entrepreneurs. No. One incredibly egregious, I thought, connection that they tried to do, a very tenuous link, right, was, so during last year's GE, they had this idea, this plan that they wanted public, obviously subsidized rental housing for young people. And now what they've done is they've tried to link that to this economic plan of theirs by saying that, because people have mortgages, they buy BTOs in their 20s and 30s and they have mortgages, then they don't dare to become entrepreneurs because they have this weighing on them. I said, my friend, entrepreneurs don't think like normal people. Okay, entrepreneurs will put things down and just say, I play to win.
Yeah.
I put everything on black.
It's an extreme sport. Yeah.
It's an extreme sport.
Yeah.
So if you're already predetermined to be this kind of person who's like, oh no, actually I want a stable job and I want this BTO kind of thing, you're not going to be an entrepreneur.
No. For a good example, go to Apple and go look for this show called Tetris.
Yeah.
That would give you a very nice picture of what an entrepreneur is.
You got to fight the Russian mob as well.
Yeah, fight the Russian mob. Throw everything you have and, hope for the best.
I don't know. I just, whenever I hear a lot of these things happening, in Parliament, whatever, right, it feels sometimes like a lot of salary earners, okay, questioning why they don't get rewards that are due to those who take the risks.
And some politicians are academics.
Yeah.
Some of them most of them have come from
yeah.
civil service.
Yeah.
They were salaried workers.
Yeah.
Are there examples of politicians who really cut their teeth in the business market?
Okay, so I would say, right, for this, right, I would highly recommend all people reading this to go and also read or listen to Minister Tan See Ling's speech yesterday at Parliament, because this guy has walked the talk. He knows that at 27 he came out, he started a medical clinic. He's a trained doctor, but he brought a bunch of doctors together, raised capital, started a clinic, built a few more clinics, okay, and then as the years went on, because I think he saw this gap in the market where, at that point in time, I think this was probably the 90s, a lot of GP clinics were still single operator run and financed, and you didn't have the scales and the economies that you could get by lumping things together and creating a network, right? So he built a network, and then they sold it off to a British insurance giant for probably multiple millions, and then I think that was in 2004. Then he went back, started again. When working for, I think, Parkway Medical, and then after that IHH, and then built, grew their revenues to like $2.1 billion a year. That's proper entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I saw a funny meme the other day. It questioned, how many wealthy economists can you name? 0.
No, I think if they're wealthy, they're not writing books.
Yeah,
they're probably
exactly.
working for a hedge fund somewhere or something like that.
Yeah, or they're selling businesses.
Yeah.
But we move on. And there's a lot of talk about fear for youth. I am a father of young boys, very young boys, and I actually feel very excited for their future. In fact, I wish I myself was like 40 years younger. And with
just
all
5
this
only.
yeah, that's true. And with all this new technology and all that, we're in for a very weird, but at the same time a very exciting future. All the barriers that were in your way are being knocked down.
Yep.
You don't need big teams and all that, and you can go on and create more and more complicated things to solve these, what the market likes to call the very big, we use the word egregious again, the big, hairy, or the very troublesome problems of the world. You can now solve all this.
Yeah.
You can, people are now talking, or rather entrepreneurs are now talking about venturing to planets, exploring the deepest depths of our ocean to create very incredible things that you've never even seen before. And all that is possible because these barriers are now being broken down.
Yeah.
Very exciting. And then it creates job markets as well, for jobs that you have never seen today. Pretty much the same way as how we today have new markets and new jobs that never existed in the 80s or 90s.
Well, I will say this, and I think maybe we should, probably end off on this sort of idea. I think when you put too much emphasis on things that catch the news, things like retrenchments, things like anecdotal stories that I can't get a job because of this or that kind of thing, right? I think you do a disservice to inspiring people. And a great amount of politics is about inspiration.
Yes.
And the problem is that if you're coming from opposition politics, right, you tend to rely a lot on grievance politics, what makes people angry, what makes people upset. And that's no way to inspire people. And so I would say that if they really truly believe that they want to present an economic policy that really speaks to young people, right, then they need to be more inspiring.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you look at, say, something like Singapore, I think, the problem with something like the Economic Strategy Review is that if you read it, right, it's written so densely that it's not very inspiring. But if you look at the whole, what it tells you, it's very inspiring. Look, here's the thing, right? We're not like other countries, no. We can afford to pay people to go and say, hey, go and train on this thing and then come back.
Yeah.
And then you've got better prospects. We've got money to say, hey, you know what? There's this new thing called AI. People are going crazy over, and it's going to be the next driver for economic growth. Let me give you 6 months worth of premium product.
You're going to play with it.
You're going to play with it. Figure it out. You think what? Some kid in Yogyakarta has that wherewithal? $20 a month times 6 is $120 a month. That's not chump change, We've got that position of strength. We've got that financial ability. It's going to change the market. There's going to be good shit, there's going to be bad shit, right? But at least you can be part of it in a way that you couldn't be part of before. And it's a disservice if you're a politician and you tell people, oh, worse than bad. We're not going to make it. No, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I'm going to extend a little bit more on the experiment part. $25 you say to play with this. Yeah. And after you play with it and you've discovered something interesting and you want to find investors, do a startup. I think Singapore is the place to be. Yeah. You've got a whole of Ayer Rajah, which is basically a startup campus. You've got incubators here. All the global, well, not all, but most of the global incubators are here. You've got your family offices, you've got your investors, and you've got a very boringly named Go Overseas grant for you if you want to go overseas.
You have everything here. You have the connection with the world. You have access to capital. Okay, you have people who can come in here from all over the world with great ideas who can help you as well. So I guess, there's a lot more to discuss about any 9-hour debate like this. But I think we've covered quite a bit in terms of where does entrepreneurship get you, domestic demand, what is it, what does it entail? And, where we both stand on these two competing economic ideas.
Yeah, more inspiration and less doom
grievance.
And gloom, less navel gazing as well.
Less grievance.
Yeah, less grievance.
All right. And on that note, thank you guys very much. This has been another episode of Singapore Confidential, and we hope to see you again soon.